Well, as you can see, I'm in the middle of London. You don't get more central in London than almost directly opposite the Houses of Parliament. And I've come to the headquarters of the IMO, the International Maritime Organization. Now we're here to look at their fabulous collection of ship models. But before we do that, we have to fight our way past this. It's a fabulous bronze statue to the world's seafarers, particularly those who have lost their lives in the line of duty. I absolutely love it, bursting forth from this building, so full of energy, demanding the attention of those people sailing past on the Thames, or I think, more importantly, those who are opposite the building, passing laws. Let's go and see what we can find. We've got most of the kit in, there's still some more to come up, but it's time to go and get the first model. Come on. This is a rail ferry from the German Democratic Republic. Rail ferries existed pretty much from the time they invented railways. They thought they needed to get them on board ship, but this one is a monster. It's one of the biggest rail ferries that was ever built in the 1980s, and it was built to link East Germany with Russia. A huge amount of the trade between the two countries was going to go on board these ships. These ships were able to transport an enormous quantity of goods. There's space for 54 cars on this top deck alone. You see, this is only one deck. There's another one underneath it that we can't see, and there was space for 49 of them below. And they were all loaded up from the stern, a big gate here which raised up. And one of the problems with vessels like this is how you load them safely, because if you imagine bringing on essentially an entire train on one side of the vessel, then it can heel over very dangerously. But these guys developed a very clever system by which they could load and unload these immensely heavy trains whilst maintaining the stability of the vessel. The International Maritime Organization is one of 17 specialised agencies of the UN. So it sits alongside things like the World Health Organization in Geneva or the International Monetary Fund in Washington. But this place is dedicated to all things maritime, in particular to improving the safety and security of international shipping and to preventing pollution from ships. Now, all of the magic happens just down here. This is the main hall where the 175 members sit alongside their associate members and various accredited organisations such as Greenpeace, the Cruise Line Industry Association and the Inuit Council. And it's in this room that some of the most important decisions ever made regarding the health and safety of seafarers and the health of our oceans have been made. Just last week, they came to an agreement which has been described as the climate deal of the decade, which included revised targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions from international shipping. This is a truly international organisation. The members sit in alphabetical order. I think the seat for Albania starts over there, and then the last one for Zimbabwe down there. Now, two key factors about membership. The first is that you don't even have to be a member of the UN to be a member of the International Maritime Organization. And even better, you don't even need to have a coastline. Somewhere around here, there's a seat for Switzerland. The desire to achieve international support for protecting lives at sea has a fascinating history, and there's a little reminder of it out here. There's maritime stuff all over this place. I love it. And here we have the Titanic. It was after the Titanic tragedy in 1912. The very first international conference regarding maritime safety was held. It was called SOLAS, Safety of Life at Sea. And it was out of that conference that the motivation, the spirit that burns so strongly in the IMO was born. Well, this one's already looking amazing, but we need to plan ahead. You've got to keep kind of going so you don't waste any time. So for us, it's time to go and get the second model. So this is the Oasis of the Seas. It's a cruise ship that is run by Royal Caribbean International, and it was launched in 2009. And at the time, it was the largest cruise ship in the world. It's also one of the greenest, most innovative ships afloat. It's an architectural masterpiece. 5,400 people can sail on this as passengers, and there's something like 2,000 staff to look after them. It caters for everyone's desires. It's split up like a city with different sections, and it does all of that whilst setting benchmarks for maritime innovation and safety. Amazing.
Put the light inside the hole.
That was brilliant. That was brilliant.
I love it when we do this, playing with the light to make the inside of the ships come alive. And this one is so enormous, it looks like an entire city. Starts in the darkness and then the light shines and just reveals more and more and more. It's a trick you can only really get with this type of lens, and it's perfectly suited for filming ship models. One of the most exciting bits are these huge lifeboats. They take over 300 people. They're a completely new, innovative design. One of the most important bits about it is that people can simply climb on board them, and then they get instantly lowered. They don't need to be swung out at all. They're double-deckered as well, and fully equipped with everything you could possibly need in a terrible situation where you'd have to man the lifeboats. The numbers associated with this ship are truly staggering. There are 16 decks. She's over 225,000 tonnes. More than 500,000 square metres of steel were used in her construction, and 3,300 miles of electrical cabling. That's further than the distance between New York and Los Angeles, all on board this ship. So we're here in the foyer, and there must be 30 ship models, I think, just scattered around, and they're all here for a specific reason. It's quite like a Christmas quiz. You've got to work out why the ship model is here. This one I do know. This is the Vale Brasil. It's very important because it is the largest bulk carrying ship in the world. 362 metres long, a breadth of 65 metres, and it's got a tonnage of almost 200,000 tonnes. An extraordinary vessel. It's ships like this that really do make the world go round. This one transports iron ore, but they can also be used to transport coal or also grains. But there's another enormous ship over here we need to have a look at. Look at this monster. This is the HMM Algeciras. It's one of 12 similar container ships built by Hyundai Merchant Marine in South Korea. And at the time of their launch, just 2.5 years ago, they were the largest container ships in the world. They could transport something like 23,964 of these containers. And it's ships like this that give us everything we need. 90% of everything we have, we eat, we wear, all comes from the sea, and it comes on board ships like this. That's why it's so important that this type of shipping is regulated, it's cared for, and also that we care for the environment through which these ships pass. There's nothing less than the future of humanity depends on shipping like this. And it's just fantastic being here because you can go from one of the most technologically advanced ships on the planet to one of the most technologically simple, one that's hundreds and hundreds of years older. Now look at this, you couldn't get much more different, could you? It's a balsa wood raft from pre-Columbian times in the Inca Empire. We know that the Incans traded with Mexico, but there have also been claims that they went all the way out into the Pacific, thousands and thousands of miles. And it wasn't until 1947 that a Kon-Tiki raft expedition, as it was known, actually tried to recreate that journey and proved that it was possible, proved that you could actually travel that far on this type of craft. So it's put here as proof of the Peruvians having a fantastic and important and international maritime history. So from a balsa wood raft sailing thousands of miles in the Pacific with very little cover and absolutely no comfort, no fun at all, you get this, the Disney Fantasy, one of the funnest ships afloat. Disney has actually been operating for more than a quarter of a century now, and this vessel is a little over a decade old, and it's fantastic. One of the really interesting things about all Disney ships is that they have two funnels, but you only need one on a modern liner. But they had two because they wanted to hark back to the traditional old days of passenger travel. So it's a bit of a vintage look about it. It's also in exactly the same colours as Mickey Mouse. So you've got the black, you've got the yellow, and you've got the red. So here we go, this is the next one. Part of the pleasure of coming to the IMO was choosing which of their many, many ship models to film. And when I walked around, this was the first one that caught my eye. I said, we absolutely have to film this one. I had no idea what it was. It turns out it's a drill ship. It's a really important, innovative drill ship, and I'm really looking forward to filming it. This is the Stena Drill Max. It's one of the most technologically advanced deep-water drilling ships in the world. It's used to explore for oil and gas, and it is an engineering marvel. Such offshore drilling requires exceptional levels of skill and the most complex maritime technology. So this represents one of the greatest achievements of maritime technology. It's quite astonishing what this ship can do. It can drill down to a depth of 35,000 feet. It's 6.5 miles. And one of the most interesting things about it is that when you're drilling down on the seabed so deep, you still need to maintain your position. Now, you can't do it with anchors, so this has a dynamic positioning system, computer controlled, and they have thrusters at the bow and at the stern which can spin 360 degrees, and they can respond to changing sea conditions, changing weather conditions, to make sure that this vessel stays in exactly the right place while it's conducting these incredibly complex drilling operations from this tower. Of all of the many artefacts here, I think my favourite is on the wall just over here. Right, here we go. This enormous work of art was donated to the IMO in 1983, so shortly after this building opened, and it was donated by the USSR, and it's fantastic because it's a snapshot in time. It depicts the membership of the IMO in 1983. It's fascinating to see how much in the world has changed since then. Something like 30 of these flags have changed, but not only that, is that many of the countries depicted here don't actually exist anymore. Here we have Zaire, which is now the Democratic Republic of Congo. On this one there are many, many more. We start here with the Federal Republic of Germany and its counterpart here, the German Democratic Republic. That of course was East and West Germany. Berlin Wall falls down, it becomes Germany as we know it. The USSR, which donated this work of art, is split into 15 different states. Yugoslavia, that's become Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro. Czechoslovakia has broken up into the Czech Republic, or Czechia and Slovakia. Now, if we follow it down, Burma has become Myanmar. Oh yes, Democratic Kampuchea has become Cambodia. All the way down to Hong Kong. Of course, at the time that this was made, Hong Kong was British, and now, of course, it's Chinese Hong Kong. And it's fantastic to see not only how the world has changed, but at the same time how the principles that underlie the International Maritime Organization have stayed the same. This place has remained like a rock while the world has been changing beneath it. So we're all done with this model, and we're going to go and find the last one, the fourth and the final model at the IMO. Now the next one is also to do with oil, but it's a different type of ship. It's an oil tanker, and it's one of the most important oil tankers ever built. So this is the Olympic Loyalty. She's a very important ship. A supertanker, crude oil supertanker built in 1993 for Greek owners, hence the name Olympic. But she was actually built in Japan. Now, ships like this were very important because they came just after a period in which there'd been a series of catastrophic shipwrecks. Oil tankers leading to terrible environmental damage. It all reached a head with the Exxon Valdez disaster in 1989. And it was after that that ships like this started to be required to be built with a double hull. That essentially means that there's another hull inside this hull, this external hull, which means if this one is breached, the cargo remains intact, and that means that the environment remains safe. One of the things that I absolutely love about the IMO is that although it was formed in 1948, so relatively recently in the huge global history of human seafaring, it's incredibly aware of its heritage. This place is full of really old models. The oldest one that I found relates to a vessel which is something like 4,500 years old, early Bronze Age Crete, and yet at the same time they're constantly looking forward, ever on watch, ever vigilant for any issues that might threaten the well-being of the world's seafarers, just like this guy on the bow of this ship.